Welcome, everyone, to a live recording of the HSP and Neurodivergent Podcast. I'm Julie Bjelland, and I'm here with
Mr. Willow McIntosh, and what a pleasure it is to be here.
Oh, it's so good to see you. We're recording live in the Sensitive Empowerment community, which is a special community that we started about 5 years ago. We just had our 5th anniversary. And it's just been such a beautiful place to be. We get to talk to each other via video first. And so if you're listening, I hope that you'll come join us for one of those, because we have a lot of fun being able to talk casually beforehand. So Willow, I was thinking, I kind of feel like we're starting season 2, which feels like the right thing. I've been kind of deciding like when to start season 2, because we actually have 200 episodes in season 1. And I just looked, and we are now in 183 countries. This podcast has reached that.
I didn't even know there were that many. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that. Like that sensitive people are listening to this podcast in so many different countries. I also came across a statistic that really kind of surprised me, but it's so beautiful, is that this podcast is in the top 1.5% globally out of all podcasts.
Wow. That is amazing. It's just so good to know that we are, we're able to reach so many. I mean, like 50 years ago, that would have been, you'd have to be on TV. It's just amazing that we can do that.
It's so beautiful. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who has shared the podcast with people, who have rated the podcast. These are things that really help others find it. So if you haven't done that yet, please share the podcast. Please review it wherever you listen to it. We really appreciate that. And I love the reviews. A recent review I read was that they love to come to listen to help them feel better about being sensitive, to help them accept themselves as a sensitive person, that's what this podcast does for them. And that made me really happy to read.
Yeah, I think that is one of the greatest outcomes, that people can embrace, for you guys to embrace who you are as an HSP, and for us to help create that container for you. That's just wonderful.
Yeah. And I thought it would be really fun, Willow, to do an experiment and start some of our podcasts with kind of the highlights and the challenges that we've been through, and to kind of share more of our lives, to share what we're experiencing, what we're doing that supports us, and also, kind of see where we go with that. Because I'm pretty sure that a lot of the things that we experience, others are going to relate to.
Yeah, that's great.
I've got my mint tea. Oh my gosh, I've been so obsessed with this. I put fresh mint leaves in hot water. It's so delicious. Actually, hot or cold water. It's so good. I have fresh mint. Do you have a preference if you would like to start with challenges and highlights, or would you like me to start, Willow?
Well, it's interesting that you are talking about mint tea. One of my recent challenges slash kind of good thing is I've been addressing actually an issue with my digestion that I've had for eons, and most of the time after I eat, it looks like I've swallowed a beach ball. And I realized that had a lot to do with my intolerance for processed foods, like anything that's processed, and also how that's been affecting my energy levels. So I've been kind of in this habit, which I'm sure many of us are in, especially when we're running our own business, where I'm kind of working all the time, and then I just eat whatever is going to fuel me, which is, I mean, I don't eat badly. I actually eat quite well, but I tend to just eat protein that fuels me. And then I kind of crash a bit in the evenings, and then I'll eat, stuff that's not so good for me. And so recently, what I decided to do was actually make a shift where I've cut out all processed foods and a lot of carbohydrates. I mean, eat a tiny amount of carbohydrates. And it's made a huge difference to how I feel. I've got much more energy. There's much more balance. And like, for instance, today I realized that I can whip up something delicious and fresh in a really quick amount of time. Like, for instance, I just had a chicken breast, and I made this lemon, garlic, a little bit of honey sauce, and then I sauteed some zucchini, bit of bell peppers, some onions, and a little bit of couscous. And it was amazing. It just tasted so good, and my body loved it, and I didn't look like I'd swallowed a beach ball after I ate it. And it's such an easy, switch. Even going through the supermarket, it took me a bit longer to kind of get everything together. But it just feels so much better to have all these veggies in the kitchen, all these lovely ingredients, and kind of getting into that creative side of cooking, which I absolutely love. And just the excitement of all that. I think it's I just feel 1,000 times better. And there's also some supplements I'm going to share just in a moment that I've found are really good for HSPs. But that shift in my diet it's made a huge difference for me.
Oh, that's great, Willow. Digestive issues are really common in sensitive and neurodivergent people. And I think we're so affected by so many of the, like, even when I was a kid, we didn't eat that processed foods really. And now it's like, there's just so much processed foods, and we don't even know what the ingredients are or how it's going to affect us. And being able to make sure, I kind of call it intuitive eating, where we eat in the way that's right for us, because each one of us have a different digestive system, different set of needs. And I know a lot of people relate to that. That's a big one. That's good that you're starting to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, it really makes a difference. Yeah, and I've heard that too, that it's common for our digestion for it to be tricky for us. I think I think our systems are probably quite sensitive to chemicals and artificial things, And you're right. If you look at the back of most packet, it's like reading the back of a shampoo bottle. It's just gobbledygook with stuff that we're clearly not supposed to be putting into our bodies.
Absolutely. And my son actually told me about an app I started using that it's called Yuka, Yuka, that you can scan codes on things. And I thought, with a certain toothpaste or a certain shampoo I was using was good until I scanned that. And then I realized it has ingredients that can cause inflammation, for example. And so it's absolutely fascinating. It seems like a good company. They're really working towards, their mission is to try to make companies more accountable for what they're putting in the products and for us to understand it better. I love it.
That's a really good idea.
Is that your share? Is that your win and your challenge, your highlight and your challenge?
I think so. Yeah, it's certainly it's been a big challenge for me. Putting up with that, and trying to kind of manage that with various different pieces. But it was the processed food, that cutting that out, that's just made a huge difference for me, and it has really helped my energy level. And something else I discovered actually, which I think might be quite handy. I'm currently in Montenegro at the moment, which is this beautiful little country opposite Italy, in Europe. And the people don't here speak a lot of English, and all of the food is it's in Montenegrin, which is a kind of a mix of different languages. But what I discovered is with ChatGPT, I can take a picture of something in the supermarket and say, "What's this?" And then ChatGPT will translate it into our language and tell me exactly where it's come from, what it goes well with, whether it's good for me or whatever. And it's just amazing.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it's been a real it's been very handy actually. And then I also wrote into ChatGPT the other day. Tell me some great non-processed recipes with ingredients that I can easily find in Montenegro. And it just went and just gave me all these amazing recipes, which is that one I was talking about earlier.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I feel like I'm constantly learning things about that. That's it's almost mind-blowing, everything that you can do, because I've heard you can also put in I have these ingredients in my kitchen, what should I do with them? And it'll just tell you different recipes and stuff. That's so neat. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, if I go into
Yeah.
some of my challenges and highlights, certainly a big challenge of mine has been the grief process, and with my mom, losing my mom. And it has
Mm.
been, there's so much to say about this because I also think that there is a lot of growth that's happening through this experience that I also want to talk about. And I know that every single one of us are going to experience grief in our lives at some point, if we haven't already. And my mom and I had a complicated beginning, but towards the last few years of her life, we got really close. And best friendship type of close, where we like told each other everything. Something happens with one of the birds outside and I'm like, I got to tell my mom. So we were really close. So it was like losing a mom and a best friend. So there's like, and also one of my best friends is going through some major health issues that we're really concerned about. So I hit these times where it just got so painful, and it was like a deep soul pain, something that I'm not even sure I've experienced to that level before. And there was a part of me that was like really questioning how I am going to exist with this kind of pain. So it also brought me into this new kind of, I don't even know if I'd call it like a new dimension or something, but it's like I've been thinking about this. We were talking about it in the community. Like I posted, Amy, who's with us, actually inspired some of this because I posted something in the community about the experience of intense emotions. And she said something that kind of made me have a light bulb go off, because it was kind of like, even naming it as an intense emotion kind of is judging it, And then I started thinking
Right.
about, well, that's so interesting, because I've always talked about the concept of us judging our emotions. And I think that when we are in places that are so difficult and so painful, especially as a neurodivergent person, sometimes we can get really trapped in that emotion. Like it is never going to change. We feel like it's never going to change. We're going to feel like this forever. And so when I was kind of going through some of these, it's kind of like crashes of waves that hit you, where the pain is so intense that if you are judging the fact that it's intense, it becomes too unbearable. But if you instead could be in a place that's like, this is a natural expression of the love that I had for my mother and the relationship that we had towards the end, and I allow myself to cry and I allow myself to, feel the feels, but without the judgment piece, then it changed it. And it was a really interesting process for me that is like, I think I spent my lifetime almost panicking about intense emotions. And I wonder how many of you guys listening can relate to that, because the emotions were so strong. And I think that we were given messages, many of us when we were young, that how we were responding, how we were reacting to things was wrong somehow. So now just imagine us as children. Now we're these children who are experiencing something really hard, and we're getting judged about it. We're getting told that's not right. So instead of getting information about how to support ourselves, how to build self-compassion, through that process, we are getting really knocked off the cliff with the judgment. And I think I myself was doing that. Like when I would experience these intense emotions, it was like almost I would feel this familiar panic come in. And that panic was what would sort of push me off the cliff. And I've been really practicing this sense of like holding myself more in this space with a more loving self-compassion, and it has been so helpful. It makes the really intense parts of it, now I have to come up with a different word than intense, but the part that's really heightened for me, it's like I can now see that I can support myself through that. So it creates more of a resilience in me, and I'm not as scared. I'm not as panicked about the intensity that I am experiencing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, goodness me. Wow. Yes. And first of all, to acknowledge what that, the courage, and of course to acknowledge what it must be like to go through what you've recently been through. I mean, it's a huge upheaval. I mean, even that doesn't really, do it justice what it must be like to go through that. And I think to just acknowledge, your strength to be able to come through as well as you have, and to acknowledge, that also it has been super hard. And I think what you're saying is a really important piece. What a breakthrough to be aware that there is the feeling itself, but then there's also the judgment on top that actually really intensifies it. And what a breakthrough to become aware of that and realize that. So it's almost like you've been, as you say, holding a space around you just to allow the feeling to be there, just in itself, without adding in the mind, putting a mind on it, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. It has been a real experience in like so many ways. And I could feel myself growing a lot from it, and just even moving into this higher level of acceptance for my experience in the world, acceptance for the fragility that I feel at times. And I know so many of our listeners are going to relate to that. And really working on the true judgment of it, that which means translates into the true acceptance of how I move through the world, how I experience the emotions that I experience. And it's been, sometimes it's hard to put into words, but it has been a really incredible experience. And also it's given me a lot more practice in the sense of recognizing that an emotion that I'm having at the moment is not going to be an emotion that I have forever. And that sounds like a simple thing to say, but I know a lot of people relate to that when something is really strong, you just feel like you can't get out of it. But I've been practicing more of that, just the sense of, okay, I'm recognizing that this is really hard right now, but I'm probably not going to feel this level of hard tomorrow or later. That it's part of practicing that sense of the waves hitting you. And with grief, it's like you can't control grief. It's part of the process is learning how to accept it, that there's going to be waves that hit you. There's times where I cry really hard. Times when I sob, times when I can think of good things, good memories, other times where I'm just feeling the sadness. And I'm kind of understanding that process more now, that the waves hit at different times when you might not expect, but it's like you can know. And I visit the ocean a lot too, so there's a real correlation with how the waves are. The waves are crashing, and in life that's what happens to us. The waves are crashing. We have different seasons that we're in. I recognize that this is a difficult season, and I wanted to kind of bring this into the podcast a bit too, because I know that so many of our listeners are struggling in a lot of different ways. And I want to normalize that it is part of the different seasons of life that we experience. And I think talking about it is a validating experience. It's validating for others to hear about it. I'm hoping that it's helpful. And I love to hear from our listeners if you are finding this helpful. Like, I love receiving messages from you guys. And also, being human and being a sensitive human, and allowing ourselves to show up as we are, like that. I feel like that's going to be a big theme of season 2 for me, is like showing up how we are, and just being real, because that's how I started everything in the beginning anyway. For everything I've done in my work, is like sharing the challenges that I experience and the things that I do that support. So that's part of it. And to move into kind of a win, I'm really super excited, because I've been thinking about, I have this new opening in my life, because I spent the last year really focused on my mom and her health challenges and what she'd been going through, and now the loss. And I sort of have this like open space that I feel like I haven't had before, because before that it was like raising children and growing a business. And now I sort of like have this open space, and I'm like, okay, what do I do with this open space? And there's always been something I've been interested in, and that is photography. And I got my first camera last night.
Oh, great.
And I'm so excited to practice this weekend. I know I have a lot to learn, but it's like a professional camera. I had been loving these bird photos. You guys know how much I love birds. And these particular photographers who take these bird photos, just wild bird photos. I mean, it is so incredible what they capture. So I actually connected with one of the photographers, and I was like, what camera do you recommend to be able to take these bird photos? So I got the recommendations. Yeah,
Wow.
I can't wait to share the photos. I don't know how long it's going to take me to learn, but Herman, my green heron friend that visits every day, he's so beautiful. His feathers are so incredible, and my phone camera is not capturing it. And I'm just like super excited to learn how to capture his beauty and all the amazing birds that come by where I live. And I think it's just gonna be something that's bring me a lot of joy, and I'm excited to like feel joy again, you know?
Wow, I love it. How exciting. I'm so pleased that you've gone ahead and bought your camera. That's fantastic. Yeah. And it's gonna be such an exciting journey to figure out the settings and, you know, all the photography tricks and tips and things. That's going to be a great part of the journey. And what a wonderful way to, you know, to embrace this new opening that you have. I love that. It's creative. It talks beautifully into your passion for animals, and you know, you're going to come out with these wonderful images that we can all enjoy.
Yeah, it's so fun. Like just holding the camera in my hand last night, I went to sleep like smiling, because I was like, I did it. I got it. I'm doing it. It's been something I've been thinking about for a while, but it's obviously a pretty big investment to get professional cameras. So I was like thinking about it for a while, and I was like, you know what? The more I was looking at different things. What would bring me joy? What could I do right now that would just be those little sprinkles of joy? And that just, I kept coming back to that. And yeah, I'm super excited. I've already shared so many photos of Herman, the green heron, and all the birds in the community, which you guys have probably seen if you're a member of the community. So I'm excited to get even better photos, but who knows how long that will take for me to learn. But that's okay. I'm gonna go through it with joy. And I think that I hope the message others receive from this too is like, find those little bits of joy. I realize I've always walked around in the world kind of seeing things in photos, because I used to I do actually take a lot of photos. My phone is just filled with photos. A lot of like, I used to take photos of trees and the tree branches, which I think are so cool. And of course, a lot of sunsets and sunrises, and now a lot of birds that are, because I live near a wetlands. So there's just so many amazing birds that come by. And yeah, I think it's going to be really amazing. Birds are incredible. Even Herman has like so many different types of feathers. I mean, I'm so impressed by these birds. Like they have all these different types. Like some are like thin and long, and some are fluffy and puffy. And even I hope I can get a good video of him grooming. It's so darn cute. Like I love when he lifts up his wing, and then he like looks under his wing.
Yeah, because he dives in the water, right? So when he's hunting, so his feathers must be designed for all sorts of kind of environments.
Yeah, he doesn't really dive in. He's more of a he stands on the side, and it's like they do that. What is that called? Where they poke at really fast to get the fish, but he doesn't generally go in full body.
Okay.
Like some of them do. But I'll get some of that too.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. I love it.
Glamorous. Fiona says.
I really think it's there's so much here that what you're talking about, you know, the movement into joy is really wonderful. And I think it, you know, it almost indicates the emotional journey that we're on, and also, what was occurring to me as well is that we're not actually fully, I don't think anyone, well, as human beings, we're not fully in control of our experience, our emotional experience, right? It's our emotions and the way that we experience the world is, of course, dictated by our conditioning in the way that we respond to things, but also we're all, an open channel for the range of feelings: anger, sadness, joy, shame, and we're not really in control of how those come through us. And I think, and it's easy to say this, but I think in many ways what helps is to acknowledge that it's okay for us to have feelings, that they're going to come anyway, and there's going to be challenges anyway. And whilst it's difficult, there is always going to be a sunrise, and there's always going to be a way that we come through the other side. But I think the good news is that we're always growing and evolving through these experiences. They're always actually for our benefit. And if I look back over my life and I think about all the difficulties that I've been through, it's actually what's allowed me to get to where I am, because of what I've learned and how I've grown and how much stronger it's made me. And even though when things go really bad for me, it's like, oh my God, this is never going to end. And we go through all of those kind of those feelings. But ultimately, I think it is even for our highest good when we experience these things and we learn to accept, as you're saying, and acknowledge and just allow our soul to grow on this path, and and to recognize that ultimately it's all making us stronger and wiser.
Yeah, it really is. That's so true. And you said something about the little joys too. It was reminded me of that I wanted to share that message too, that when we are going through really hard stuff, really hard moments, whatever it is, if you can just think about, how can I experience one small little moment of joy? That became actually my goal during my darkest, most difficult days, was can I even have one split second of something that feels good right now? And sometimes it would be, my dog, and how darn cute he is. It can be a moment of, noticing the sunset, the sunrise, the birds that fly over that I watch every day. It's and it wasn't just that I would, because there was a difference between just watching it, but really soaking it in. So I would have these moments of I'm really soaking in this moment. And that is my goal for today, is that I just feel one of those things, even if it's briefly. And it kind of took pressure off of me in a sense. And I was kind of okay, I had that moment of joy, I soaked it in, and that is good for today. And it changed how I was moving through those hardest days. And eventually those kind of things accumulate over time, where you start to kind of, I think in general, that kind of mindfulness is such a gift to give ourselves, because I was doing that even before the grief. And I'm glad I had that practice, because it got easier for me to get into it, where every day just notice something, something that just gives you a little spark of joy, a little bit of pleasure. It can be, a butterfly landing on a flower. I mean, it can be anything, just that you really notice and you soak it in, and you note that is a moment of something that brought you joy, that brought you pleasure, that felt good. And I think when you start stacking those onto each other, eventually it really does start to make a difference.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's a technique that I've also found to be really helpful, is when things are really difficult, it is, as you say, the joyful pieces, and also finding things to be grateful for, even if it is our pets or anything, the fact we have a roof over our heads, whatever it may be,
Yes.
even the simple things, looking at a flower, that also I find really starts to shift the state, and allows us to raise frequency a little bit if we're really struggling. And the other thing that I find really interesting about joy is that joy is actually a natural part of our identity. It's a natural part of who we are, that exists within all of us, and it's up to us how much we embrace or resist that. And there's a difference between joy and happiness. The word happiness actually comes from the word happen. And that refers to when something, when circumstances happen that make us feel happy. So maybe we bump into an old friend, they tell us great news, and then we go into the office and someone gives us a cake for no reason. And then we have we find out our favorite TV shows on tonight, and always things happen. And then suddenly we just feel happy. I feel happy, and that's happening. Whereas joy is actually a part of our natural state that is always there. And I love how you described that, Julie, because when we are looking at looking at something in nature, or we're just taking a small moment, we're actually consciously connecting with that natural part of ourselves. And I think the more that we remind ourselves that's there, we can actually maintain that even when something difficult is happening. We can still have this underlying experience of joy without diminishing or pretending that there's nothing wrong. We're still acknowledging we're wrong, but we're actually hanging on to that state without going into despair.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. And I like what Gracie said. I want to read too. She's like, it's wonderful to be open to experiences of joy while also in the midst of grieving. I've heard some people express guilt or shame for laughing or feeling a glimmer of happiness when they feel they, quote, should be grieving. So liberating to let go of that judgment. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I love that, Gracie. That's it is liberating to let go of judgment. And even before we started recording, Willow, we had some members talking about things that I had kept notes about because I loved it. One, he was talking about alignment with self and connecting authentically, and how he's kind of learning about that process right now. And I think that's such a huge one, like, because I was talking about how we can't connect truly if we really aren't being ourselves. And, we've had to, so many of us have been hiding who we are, hiding our experiences, because that's kind of what we were taught to do, hiding how we really experience the world. And someone else was talking about when they stepped into the community that it felt like a sense of home. There's a shared understanding and a sense of being seen. And I think that is the most beautiful experience, is like when you get a group of sensitive people together, that's what we experience. It's like a sense of belonging, a sense of being seen. And what a powerful feeling that is, how much that shifts your experience in general. And I've been thinking a lot about like social constructs and how it's like, because if you were to line up 100 brains in front of you, that every single brain would be different. So where did we get the idea that everybody was supposed to be the same? Because
Right.
that actually doesn't work for anybody. So it's such a kind of aha moment to really realize that's like, we are all different. What if we just accept each other? And what if we just I was having this conversation with my son. We were out to lunch, and he was talking about, I forgot what he was talking about, but he said something, and I was like, one of the qualities that I really love about you is that you are so accepting. Like, even if I'm talking about something or somebody else is talking about something that you don't necessarily believe in yourself, you don't give us the feeling like us believing in it is wrong. You just accept it. And you know what he said, Willow? He said, I got that from you.
Ah,
He got that
wow.
from me. And I
Actually,
was like,
yes, that is one of your superpowers, without question. Yeah,
that's
definitely.
so sweet, Willow.
Yeah, you're right up there in the top echelon of people that I can completely be myself with.
Oh, thank you. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. I mean, if that becomes my legacy, that would be just like the best thing in the world, because I mean, I suppose that is from my own experiences of not feeling accepted and going through those things in my life. But I was like, I had to like soak that in when he said that, because it felt so good. And I'm so glad that I gave that message to my children and to those around me, because it is important for us to be ourselves. And because if we're not ourselves, how are our people going to find us and connect to us if we're not being ourselves? So I love that we have this space to to be ourselves. And I want to take a moment to share something about the community a little bit so that others can kind of know that if you are not yet a member of the community, and we have so many amazing groups. You know, Willow, we just celebrated 5 years in the community, and that was such a beautiful thing. And I want to let people know, because I have so many people that contact us and are like, I wish I had a space to know other sensitive people. It's like, we have a space. The sensitive empowerment community is a space. We do weekly live events. We're doing our podcast live. We do 3 times a month meet and greets, which are incredible for really connecting with each other from all over the world. And Willow, I don't even know if you knew about all these groups that we have. We started some new ones too. We have the Spiral Up group, which is for overcoming depression, healing, belonging, and thriving. That's hosted by Gracie King, who's with us. Sensitive Sages, which is for HSPs 60 plus. I think that's really exciting that we've got that. That's hosted by Christine. And then I've started an Autistic women's group, which is for late discovered. We've got Soul Sanctuary for HSPs of color, hosted by Robin Morton. And I just started a new Rainbow Room, which is for LGBTQIA+. It's really a safe space, so you have a place to be safe in the world. We have HSPs and Heart-Centered Business. That's a supportive space where we can give you some support for your business, get you on some of our directories and things. And we have a self-discovery journey. So we have all these like neat little niche groups that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned so that our podcast listeners knew. And we really want to invite you in to enjoy this experience of being together, enjoy all these little niche groups. And it's really kind of feels safe because it's inside the community where we feel like safe. You know, we keep the space very safe. And I think that allows us to be ourselves in the world. And anyway, wanted to share those.
Yeah, wonderful. I love it. They're amazing, the groups in your community. Yes, yes, I do. I see them when you send your newsletter and sometimes coming to the community. It's amazing what you're creating there. And I think what is most important is that, you know, to be seen and to be safe and to be able to have the conversations that we really want to have and to be in a container where, you know, there isn't the judgment around being an HSP that many of us struggle with growing up. And I heard this wonderful this thing the other day around what it means to be authentic is allowing ourselves to be who we really are without the fear of punishment.
Yes.
Which I think is often, you know what I mean? That's often what we're unconsciously fearful of, is the judgment or the punishment, because that often happened a lot as children, that we would take the experience that there's something wrong, or we can't do that, or we should be punished, and therefore we should feel shame around just being ourselves.
Yeah, we were talking about that too, right before we started recording, the sense of I've noticed that as we've understood more about our trait of high sensitivity, and for those of us that are understanding that we're autistic or neurodivergent in some way, that we are really getting rid of shame. And it is quite magical how that happens. I'm seeing that across the board, whether it's clients I'm working with or people in the community or even myself. It's like, to be able to reduce and eliminate shame is so life-changing. To carry around this feeling of shame about who we are, it literally affects every aspect of our life, our relationships, our families, our work, everything. I know, Willow, you do wonderful work in the world, helping people really kind of get access to the gift that they have within them and helping them. I mean, what are you working on lately, by the way?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I specialize, really my expertise is helping HSPs to understand, to reveal their purpose and how to bring that into service, and whether that is in their lives locally, within their community, or if it is to create a business or to create a movement in some way. This current piece that we're working on at the moment is really developing what I call the high sensory method, which is a series of foundations that help us to really refine our natural identity and our natural strengths and abilities. Because as HSPs, it can be so hard to meet and build relationship with the truth of who we are, because of the trauma that we've experienced and the false identity that we often experience, and the shame and the effect that that can have. When actually there is a way in which we can refine the natural truth of who we are that's just always there. And that process has, it's created such life-changing results that I've been very fortunate to see over the years that I have been training this. And the method really came through, from working with HSPs and this just emerging, and through my own work and my own experience. And it's the foundation of what we provide, and the courses and the programs that we do. And I'm always open to having a chat and just to listen to you. If you're most welcome to book a call. I love to be able to meet you, and for you to feel safe. You don't have to be on form. You don't need to have anything prepared. You can just jump on a call and I can talk about this and just see how I might be able to help you. There's no obligation, of course, with the call. It's just a chance to speak to someone who's been training HSPs for 7 years now. We're in our 7th year in Luminance. So you just have to head to highsensoryintelligence.com, and then you can click book a call, and then you'd be most welcome to jump on to Zoom just to have a chat.
And what a ripple effect, right? That creates the ripple effect when someone can step into their own gifts and bring that up into the world as their authentic selves. I think about the ripple effect of that. It's such a beautiful thing. And if anybody in the chat has a question they want to share, I want to give a little space to that, like a question or a comment that we can talk about. Mike says, having a space to explore your true self with other like-minded souls is so important, I feel. Oh, it is so true. It's almost hard to explain too, isn't it? That's why, if you are on the fence about joining the community, I say just join it. Give yourself a couple of months of experiencing it, and you're going to see how life-changing that is. And also, I've opened up some new spots to work one-on-one with me. I'm actually enjoying that. I had taken a break for a while, and I'm really started to enjoy the experience of working with clients all over the world. And I also do autism assessments if anybody is really wanting to explore that. Whether you want the actual assessment with a diagnosis, or you just want to understand more of yourself. That's something I kind of felt called to do, because I don't think there's enough practitioners who understand what autism looks like in women or those assigned female at birth. So that's part of why I decided to do that. And I want to say thanks to everybody for being with us too. Anything that resonated with you today that you want to share?
I've been hearing such amazing things about your autism assessments, Julie.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Yeah. It's just how, I can't think of the description for it, but I think it's like discovering fire for some of the, people. It was for me, actually, when we had the conversation about autism. It really is such a breakthrough, especially to take away the stigma that's attached to it, that it's a condition, rather than it being an ability. And of course, all the wonderful awarenesses that come when we let go again of the shame around our personal experience and how we're experiencing the world, and to recognize there's nothing wrong with it. It's life-changing.
Oh, that's so neat, Willow, that you're hearing that. I love that. Yeah, it's been just such a beautiful experience I feel like I'm giving the gift of reducing, not just reducing, but eliminating shame and the gift of self-acceptance and self-understanding. It's been so life-changing for me. Gracie, I did not know this. She just said getting an autism diagnosis can get you a free pass into all national parks in the US. This was a delightful
Wow.
surprise. That's really amazing.
Oh, wow. That is. I love that.
Interesting. I hadn't even thought about like what a diagnosis can do to support us.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Does anyone want to share anything that you related to today that kind of was an aha moment for you, or any questions you want to make sure that we cover? Oh yeah, Cecilia's asking, is that just for Americans? Yeah, we'll have to look into that. I don't know. That's pretty neat. We
That's
also
a
have,
really,
huh?
sorry. So I was going to say, Chris, I love what Christine's saying there, that it's not widely known that it's a genetic trait, which of course, autism is as well, being on the higher spectrum of the HSP trait. I think that's it's so encouraging to know that it isn't a condition. It's not something that's created through trauma. It's a needed and natural part of the human genome.
Yeah, just like we accept, I wrote an article on the blog about about how biodiversity reminds us that we need neurodiversity. And I think is such an important concept to look at, because like how we understand, like if there was only one type of tree, for example, then trees wouldn't exist, because we actually need the ecosystem. And so I think it's so interesting, especially for us as sensitive people, because we're so connected to nature, that's a great way to look at it. Like we walk into nature and we're like, I love the diversity in nature. Not only do we appreciate it, but it's also something that is needed for the ecosystem, just like neurodiversity is needed in the human population. So if you're somebody that has a hard time accepting who you are, I encourage you to come into the community and give it. I mean, you will change your feelings about who you are. You're going to find a lot of self-acceptance, and that's just the magic that happens when we're all together like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to say too, we're going to try something new too, where we're having, you can leave voice messages for us too on the podcast, and we might be bringing some of them onto some future episodes, which can be fun. And maybe we do a little bit of that too, where we can have members of the community that are joining us live can bring on, and talk if they want as part of the episode, to bring on a question or something. I want to explore some different things for season 2. And so I want to hear from you guys. What do you want? What do you need? What kind of questions do you have for us? And we're going to love kind of diving into those things with you. So I want to, everything that we've talked about, all the resources that we have, I'm going to put that into the show notes, and encourage you to come be a part of the community. Go check out Willow's work, and book a call with him. And yeah, so this was fun. I mean, this felt so good to be back. And we're going to do this every Thursday, most Thursdays. It's going to be both of us. Sometimes it'll be just one of us. We're going to try to be consistent about doing this. And I'm offering the Thursdays with Julie, so you can join us via video to talk. We're not recording that part. So if you just want to come and connect and share some wins and ask questions or just connect, that's really fun to do. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'm going to drop, I've been thinking too, I'm going to drop into the community a little bit more often too. I've already been in there a lot through our discussions, but I'm thinking like I might drop into the Autistic Women's group and do some live stuff there together, and maybe some of the different groups, and maybe just surprises I'll jump into, which I just want to be more connected to you guys, because it's really a beautiful thing. You all have the most beautiful hearts, and just being surrounded by you is such a good thing. Gracie says, wonderful to listen to.
Thank you for your...
And Willow, thank you so much for your beautiful shares today. Fiona says, this was great. I've missed hearing you two together. Mike says, thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.
So grateful for this beautiful community. Oh, I love that you guys are here and sharing. Thank you. And thanks for the support. Please, if you got something out of this episode, please share it with someone. Please do the reviews for the podcast, and let's get to all the countries And we're heading towards 1 million downloads. So help us get there, and we'll do some celebrating when we do, which will be exciting. So
Yay.
anything else, Willow, that you want to share?
Just so good to be here. Thank you everyone for your wonderful input. And yeah, I'd love to, hear any questions that you have on the voicemail option that we have. Anything you can think of, anything that you want to ask us, things you're struggling with, ideas you have, aspirations you have. It'd be wonderful to hear from you. And as ever, please do share the podcast. The more that we can reach people, the more we can help and support HSPs to truly find their truth and their joy and meaning and belonging, most importantly.
I love that, Willow. And I want to say to everybody listening, take good care of your beautiful, sensitive self. You are so needed in the world exactly as you are, and we love you for it. Sending out lots of love and hugs to you all. See you next week. Come join us on Thursday. See you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now. Bye.